it's really serendipitous, really. I mean, we're just so excited, so delighted that we announced this masterclass almost a month and a half ago. And I think the universe conspired with us day before yesterday. So let's have a round of applause for what really came out of humanity, equality, our constitution at its best. The custodians of our constitution demonstrating humanity, respect, equality, and the rest to this very special group of people. And the only reason I say special is because they have for far too long suffered the consequences of not being the same, suffered the consequences of being different. And I think this group has suffered the difference the most. And I was really touched to have one of the judges in the Supreme Court, the lady judge, interestingly, who said that we historically owe an apology to this group, and I think we really do, especially the corporate world, more than anything else, for being in denial, for having not done enough, for not having even acknowledged this agenda, and I think having actually the biases and prejudices and deeply held values and assumptions being at its worst, really, in terms of being able to marginalize a very significant part of our community and society.
Gay. A male-identified individual who is attracted romantically, physically, or emotionally to another male-identified individual. Gay. Gay is also used as an umbrella term to refer to homosexuals or those who have homosexual or same-sex attraction. I am Amaya Dangle, or rather a part of Amaya Dangle that he doesn't like to take to work. You know that sweet, smiley gentleman at the bank who accepts your deposit slip and swivels the cash in that mixer-looking thing? Yes, that's Amaya. He's very well liked by his customers and his colleagues. Actually, it's very difficult not to like him. His voice isn't deep like the other men. He likes moisturizing his hands and uses words like please and thank you. Growing up, he was his mother's go-to person for whether a sari was in fashion or not. And a constant disappointment to his father for being unable to drink like a sailor. He was different, but they still loved him. Because his difference did not have a name, a label. Around 14 came that strange age when boys and girls start to smile at each other from across the classroom. But there was no one for Amaya to smile at, and no one smiling back at him. It was probably then that he discovered me, a sticky, unshakable label of gay had now been printed upon his difference. He was confused. He tried befriending women. He went on a few dates. He screamed. He cried. He ran away from home. He even tried killing himself. But I couldn't leave. When he came clean to his father, a traditional Maharashtrian school teacher, asked him, "Gay? How do you know you're gay? What made you gay?" Same thing that made you straight, Dad. But the passing of that night, Amaya and I knew that there was no place for me in his home. So we wondered, where else could he perhaps take me? Maybe at work?
It's Mother Aghosh. And yes, I guess I am a lesbian. I don't belong to a particularly rich family, but certainly an intellectual, well-educated Bengali family. I must admit there was nothing to warn or alert my family and friends about my lesbianness. had dated men right through college and masters. It seemed like the natural progression to move to Bombay to work, meet a nice young Bengali man and be married. It would have been a nice enough shock to tell my parents I didn't want to marry a Bengali boy. So imagine trying to tell them I didn't want to marry a man at all. I had dated men, but only because it seemed like the only allowable option. I enjoyed their company, their little quirks and habits. Certainly had a friendship with them. Never that extra something. That something which is the foundation based on which two people agree to surrender entire lifetimes to each other. I couldn't even surrender myself for more than a week. It always felt like so much effort. I would wait for my date to leave. Just so I could breathe. My love life felt like this never-ending performance. Always on stage. People think lesbian are these manly, rugged women who hate makeup and romantic comedies. I'm not like it. I mean, I moved to Bombay to work in the marketing division of a major cosmetic giant. I love their products and the women who endorse them. I'm a girly girl. But trust me, my attraction to women had come as the biggest surprise to me. Exactly the kind of thing one dreams of for oneself. It felt natural. And then I met her, Viviani. She was a copywriter working at the ad agency that was working on a campaign at the...
Bisexual. Individuals who are attracted romantically, physically, emotionally to both men and women. So I am the B of the LGBTQIA+. I'm Ashi, by the way. And before anything else, let me clarify that being bisexual doesn't mean I date both men and women at the same time. That's not bisexuality, that's infidelity. Okay, how to explain this? Right, so, okay. When I was a kid, every year my parents would take me out for a vacation and inevitably we would end up going to the mountains. Wow, I loved the breeze and the camping and the trekking and all the adventure that came with it. But then this one time, I decided to take a road trip down to the beach with my friends. Waves crashing against the shore, the bubbling of the water, the warm sand in my toes. I fell in love. So now I love both the mountains and the beaches equally. They make me feel the same. I get the same warm feeling in here and they cost almost the same. Now depending on wherever I am in life emotionally, I just choose which one to go to. Growing up, just like any other girl, I thought that I would grow up to be solely attracted to men. And they would have the sole right to break my heart. I'd find the perfect one day and get married. But unfortunately, I was never particularly interested in grooming myself. My dressing sense was what they call butch or man-like. By 19, I already knew I was bisexual. My parents had given up on saying anything to me, but I did worry, as any parent would, given the implications of this choice on my future. But you see, that's where the error is. It's not a choice. If it were a choice, would it not just be a lot simpler to choose to be straight? Anyway, so my first job was at this e-commerce startup, right? So it's the kind of place where there are 10, 15 employees, really close-knit environment, and everybody knows everybody, you're spending weekends together. Now, in a setup like that, it's a lot harder to keep a secret. Now, this is not particularly a secret, but I just didn't see what good it would do to me to come out in the open about this. I mean, all I would invite is a lot of judgments, unwanted opinions.
Biological sex is different than the gender with which they identify. Sounds a bit complicated, doesn't it? See, I was named Rana after the great warrior king, Rana Pratap Singh. As an army colonel, I'll excuse my father for his limited creativity. I grew up in a time when I was about 11 years old. My younger aunt, she would come and watch me and my little sister. And she caught me checking myself out in front of the mirror. But I was wearing a sari. I was given one tight slap and I was told, this is not what young boys do. Go play with your G.I. Joe over there. G.I. Joe. You know, I was born a boy, a male. That was my biological sex. But gender is a matter of the soul. Your sex knows exactly who it is. But your gender is a set of behaviors, and that is completely up to your will. You know, even in today's world, gender roles can't be decided. Oh, a boy mustn't play with a Barbie doll, or a girl mustn't roll around in the mud. Yeah, I liked sports, you know, I really did. But not in that dadagiri, like rowdy sort of way that other boys used to play. But even then, I'd given them enough reason to start calling me a chakka. And at 15 years old, I blamed them. But by then, my parents had certainly realized that their boy was not normal. You know, I would pray. I mean, let me put it this way. They never understood me. But in all fairness, they never rejected me either. I would pray to God every night. I would ask him what I had done to deserve this discomfort of existing in my own body. See, I was attracted to things that I shouldn't have been attracted to. And I was attracted to people that I shouldn't have been attracted to. I told my parents of the decision that I wanted to undertake. And there I was, 2 months later, in the hospital recovery room. I was looking for familiar faces. But there weren't.
Come out, wherever you are, is an invitation not to the LGBT community, but to the straight majority. Come out of your closets. Let us not hide anymore. Let us welcome those that are different from us. It is not strange, embarrassing, unnatural, or weird. It is the only difference of love which will always overcome hate. So,
Come out.
Come out.
come out.
Wherever you
And you do know of, as compared to many others who are still thinking about starting on this journey, tell us about best practices, practices that you that worked within your organization. What exactly do you do?
I think I'm going to go across the spectrum from the hire to fire processes, right? So I think from when I look at the recruiting side, I think there needs to be a conscious effort by virtue of if you're doing search to ask for balanced slates, right? And not done in India as much, but I think internationally you insist in saying we'd love to see a balanced slate, whether it is gender or people belonging to the LGBTQ space. We'd like to bring in inclusion. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the kind of questions that you ask as a part of the recruiting process, right? So what is family like? So what does your wife or husband do? Basic simple things as partner, significant other, subtle things, right? What do your forms say? What does your portals what do your portals say? I think the other big thing which I think in recruiting is to keep in mind is how do your job descriptions sound like? A lot of our job descriptions have an alpha male sense to them. And I think we need to watch that because organizations are healthier when you can get the masculine and feminine traits to a degree in unison and in synergy. our job descriptions possibly need some work. So I think that's a piece to say, are your job descriptions all about the aggressive problem solving, this kind of stuff, or is it encouraging things? Because knowingly or unknowingly, your job descriptions may be putting people off some of those jobs, right? So they're not even considering you in the process. So that's job description. We talked about the kind of interviews you do and what you ask in that. I think the key thing in the recruitment process is to try and ensure that you have folks who can mirror or are champions of some of these interventions, right? So if somebody belongs to the LGBTQ side on the leadership team that's interviewing, or the functional panels, it just gives that much more confidence to say, you know what? Yes, this place recognizes it and accepts it, rather than just stuff that's mentioned on walls and on their portal. You're really making it real by having the right people as a part of the hiring process. When I talk about learning, I think there cannot be a better way of shaping, or what I call as head shaping, an organization than through your learning interventions, right? I think.
So if we go to the people and we ask them, what is it that you're looking for? These are some of the top 2, 3 that have come up, right? And one boils down to the hygiene policies, which is, can we, at every step, feel that we're also part? So it is part of what you were all saying in terms of the forms, the choices, etc. Because they say that that's just the base of every employee in this organization, every policy. But we don't feel part of that. So they said, is there any way that can be provided for us in the smallest steps, right? So I'm not even going to go into the specifics, but that is a basic ask. Because for all of us, policies, it's hygiene factors. And it's the smallest things that go missing, but make a big impact. And when we say, why do you not feel included? It starts with this, right? So that's one thing that we're hearing very clearly from the group. The other is, there are moments of truth in the organization, right? Which is a conversation with the manager, a conversation around performance, a conversation around a personal issue. And how is that handled? Because they say that people don't seem to understand us, right? They don't understand our concerns, they don't understand our issues. And when I'm sitting and hearing this, I'm like, oh my God, I don't feel understood myself, because I don't necessarily fit into a box, but I fit into most of the boxes, right? And I can't even imagine what it's like for them. So I've had employees, and not from here, from earlier, talk about, so I go there and I say my boyfriend or my partner is unwell and I need to take him to the hospital. And I've been asked insensitive questions, right? So where you go into personal details, etc. So they want to know that these moments of truth can be handled sensitively. So this whole bit around awareness and training, I don't even say training, it's education. I'll go back to that. It is awareness and education that the world is a little different for them. And not just for them, I think for all of us, I'm sure there are enough situations where we feel different, where we feel like we don't fit in. So just be aware that that is there for them as well. And educate the system and keep the system aware. And this is true for any moment